Mystery surrounding the Iranian ship IRIS Dena continues to deepen. Today, in his address in the Rajya Sabha, External Affairs Minister S Jaishankar said, and I quote, that Iran sought India's permission for 3 of its ships to dock at Indian ports, and the approval was granted the next day. He added that the Iranian side requested permission for the same on the 28th of February. Permission was accorded on the 1st of March. It was IRIS Lavan which docked on the 4th of March in Kochi.
Here's the situation. You had these ships, and we got a message from the Iranian side that one of the ships, which presumably was closest to us, to our waters at that point of time, wanted to come in to our port. They were reporting that they were having problems. So we viewed this, look, this ship, or these ships, because there were 2 others as well, I mean, when they set out and came here, the situation was totally different. I think it was the humane thing to do, and I think we were guided by that principle.
An important point to note here is that the Iranian warship IRIS Dena was given permission by India to dock 3 days before it was torpedoed by a US submarine. It suffered the first military strike outside the Middle East since the US and Israel launched their war on Iran. So the big question is, why did IRIS Dena not dock despite the permission being granted? All right, we have some breaking information coming in. This is what sources in the government are telling Times Now, that IRIS Dena waited for 11 hours in international waters for Sri Lankan clearance. Iran initially offered 3 naval ships for the exercise, and India cleared the participation of IRIS Dena. On the 28th of February, 3 requests were received. India approved them on the 1st of March, and we've seen how IRIS Dena and IRIS Bushehr sailed towards Sri Lanka following Operation Milan. Let's quickly go across to our reporters joining us live. We have Imran joining us live from Sri Lanka. We also have Rishabh joining us from the national capital, as well as Mayank. I'm going to come to you first, Imran. Now, the question still remains as to what really happened as far as IRIS Dena is concerned, because the government says that the clearance was given, yet it was near Sri Lanka in international waters. Why was it not moving, Imran? What are your sources telling you?
Well, absolutely, Madhav. That's the important question where many of the detractors of the Sri Lankan government is asking. In fact, the opposition also targeted the government over this, saying that the Dena ship was for 11 hours had waited for the international waters, and some will say that special economic zone, exclusive economic zone of the Sri Lankan government. And why was the clearance not given? Why was no communication done? The Sri Lankan government says that there were no clear instructions from the IRIS Dena about this issue. In fact, the Indian government had earlier asked safe passage for IRIS Dena, asked it to dock in India before proceeding, but those requests were ignored by IRIS Dena. And they proceeded further. In fact, at the Gaul, where the incident happened around 19 nautical miles from the Sri Lankan coast, the incident happened where it was torpedoed. In fact, US Spectcom tweet also has created a lot of controversy, where it said that it was a coordinated attack, and it informed Sri Lankan Navy later to do the rescue of the soldiers. Now, over this, the opposition is targeting the government, saying that the
political fight, of course, is underway. Imran, stay with us. Let me quickly bring in Rishabh as well. Rishabh, what are your sources in the government telling you? How did this all take place, and why is it that IRIS Dena, despite getting the clearance to dock in India, was nowhere close?
Well, Madhav, I'll just take 2 minutes to explain this to our viewers. India hosted IFR, the International Fleet Review, and Exercise Milan in Visakhapatnam between February 18th to February 25th. India invited Iran. This is before the Middle East crisis had begun. So India invited Iran. Iran offered 3 ships, IRIS Dena, IRIS Bushehr, and IRIS Lavan. India said that we can take IRIS Dena, which is a frigate, rest to our junior fleet ships. So IRIS Dena came for the Milan exercise. After Milan exercise got over on 25th of February, the 3 ships started moving. The Dena started moving toward Iran, and the other 2 ships were in Indian Ocean on a normal voyage. Sri Lanka, as a goodwill gesture, and this is quite normal in international Navy goodwill gesture, that you invite various foreign ships to dock on your port as a goodwill gesture, and Sri Lanka said, since you are in these waters, you please come to our port as a port call. This is something that the sources have confirmed to us here in New Delhi and Colombo as well. Now, Amid all this, on 28th of February, the crisis begins, and then India gets an SOS call from Lavan. The first SOS call comes in from Lavan because while Dena and Bushehr started moving towards Sri Lanka, Lavan did not get a clearance from Tehran to go to Sri Lanka. So as a premeditated route, it was moving toward Indian shore, and it docked in Kochi. While the rest two, one went to Trincomalee, the
Okay,
other one
let me
was
quickly
close
get in
to-
Mayank as well. Mayank, what really are we looking at in terms of, from the military perspective, the entire circumstances surrounding it? Still, there's a lot of mystery. 3 ships being given permission by India, but only 1 docking in. Was there some kind of priority? Did they want to dock in Sri Lanka only? Were they physically closer to Sri Lanka? What really has happened here?
It appears as if when the entire things were being explained, and as the statement made by our External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar, all 3 ships were allowed, and they could come and dock in the safe waters of Indian territorial waters, which is almost 12 nautical miles from the shores, 22 kilometers in territorial terms. But what you see is actually, as also said by our External Affairs Minister, is that the closest being IRIS Lavana, that could only reach to our shores.
Okay.
So, I mean, as you said, even Navy is not clear whether what happens to, when the permissions have already been given, what happened to RIS Bushehr and Dena, that they could not move from that side to this side.
Okay. Steve, I'd like to thank you, Mayank,
So,
Rishabh, as well as Imran, for joining us with those quick updates. But let's take a quick look at this ground report that Imran has sent us from earlier in the day in Sri Lanka, because this is the base where the Iranian Navy sailors currently are at. Let's take a look at this ground report.
We are at the naval base at Velisarai, where the second Iranian ship, Bushehr's crew members, 208 crew members, have been kept here as safe custody. After the IRIS Dena, which was torpedoed by the US Navy, the second Iranian Navy ship, Bushehr, was caught in the high seas with engine failures. Due to technical issues, the Navy sought help of the Sri Lankan Navy. The boat has been brought to the Colombo port, where due to technical problems it couldn't sail to Trincomalee port, where it was supposed to be taken for safe custody. The president, informing the media, said that the ship will be taken to Trincomalee because as there are threats that it could be attacked. And the sailors, all the 208 crew members, including senior cadets and 55 officers and sailors and junior cadets, have all been brought to the naval base here at Velisarai. As you can see behind me, this is the naval base from where they have been kept as a safe custody, and where all the sailors will be kept till further action. The US, however, said none of these sailors should be sent back to or repatriated to Iran, and in fact they said that till further.
All right, let's open this up and take this across to our guest. Joining us is Lieutenant General D.P. Pandey, who's with us from the debate number 1. Pathikrit Pain is a geopolitical analyst with us. We have Manan Bhatt, Navy veteran, joining us, and Professor Rohan Gunaratne, global security expert, also joins us. So, let me come across to you first. Manan, as a Navy veteran, what could have possibly happened here? We know that at least IRIS Dena was part of Operation or the IFR Milan. But beyond that, 3 ships being cleared to dock in India, but only 1 actually manages to dock. What has happened here in your view?
Thank you for having me here. It seems that the ship has sailed afar. My first impression is that the ship had sailed afar and they wanted to dock in Sri Lanka. So that could be one reason. The other one is that no sailor worth his salt, no soldier worth his salt. If his ship, if his country is under attack, and if his ship or if his tank is operational, he do not want to stay away from the war. So they wanted to reach their country as far as possible and participate in the war. So I believe that if they while they were sailing, they were being tracked continuously by the US satellites and US surveillance systems, and when they found them vulnerable, they shot them.
But why would then Iran seek permission for them to dock? If they were so eager to join the war, clearly the government was speaking a completely different language, isn't it?
Yeah. That's a valid point. Iran wanted, as US has already destroyed 42 of their ships, Their shipyards, Iran wanted those ships to be safe. So that at least they can have some navy for the sake of it. But soldiers, on their part, they might wanted to join the war. They might or it may be possible that they wanted to dock in a nearby island of Sri Lanka and stay put there. But having said that, if you dock in a country while your country is at war, you are not, as per Hague Convention, you are not supposed to participate or sail as a warship. You are not supposed to sail or participate in the war until the time the war finishes. So that was also an issue with the ship, and they might be it might be possible that the captain was in two minds.
Let me bring in other panelists as well, please. Patikrit, I want you to come in on this. Is it possible that the captain was in two minds, was perhaps itching to go to war, go back to Iran, because the government had taken quite a different position and India has already allowed them to do so? What's the likelihood of that having happened, or do you think there's another explanation?
Well, at any point of time, any kind of a platform which is in sea or anywhere else, whether it's aerial or surface or subsurface, they do not act individually. They take permission at every point of time. They take instructions from their concerned government to the Ministry of Defense or superiors. So what communication that particular ship had at that specific point of time from Iran, that we will never be, we are not likely to know. Nobody will be privy to that. So they have given a, request for docking somewhere in India. They have probably had a change of mind, or maybe that was kind of a disguise that they were trying to show, or maybe they had something else in mind to have some kind of a presence over there in case the Americans start attacking over there. They would do something here, elsewhere. These are part of the war strategies that Iranian government can only explain. That is not something, even the opposition should not ask the government of India. The government of India, if they have got a request, that will be there in the logbook. There is an evidence of that. Beyond that, whether they come or whether they go, that is their choice. Because as was rightly mentioned by the previous panelists, they are in a state of war. They cannot have the luxury to decide, okay, we will stay here as long as we want. Decisions in such kind of a war scenario happens every second. In a fraction of a second, they can take a decision and move away. And that is not something, they will not wait for opposition of India to ask and then create some kind of an excuse.
No, we're not having a political debate here. That's why we only have experts, but there's still some kind of questions that remain unanswered, although the government has put out its statement. And that's why I want to bring in fact, a panelist even from Sri Lanka. Professor Rohan Gunaratna is also with us. Professor Gunaratna, what has happened in this case? Because there are some reports, and our reporter was just telling us that perhaps this ship was made to wait at sea for about 11 hours at Hambantota, perhaps due to congestion or some other reason. Is that what you're hearing as well?
It is very likely that this ship waited for permission from the Sri Lankan authorities to come into Sri Lanka, and that the Sri Lankan authorities were having a consultation with the Americans, with the Iranians, and even with the Indians as to what to do. Because one must understand that by that time, war has broken out between India and the United States.
Iran and United States, not India.
Between Iran and the Israel and the US. So it is very likely that there was a process of consultation during this period. I think that it is the standard procedure for a country like Sri Lanka to consult both India and the Iranians as well as the US.
Okay, so it's that process of consultation that could have probably led to this. And perhaps if there was not a delay on that count, we don't know, perhaps IRIS Dena would not have been torpedoed. But let me bring in Lieutenant General Pandey on this. Lieutenant General Pandey, there are some reports that suggest that the US had warned IRIS Dena before the torpedo strike. The Iranian commander didn't allow the crew to leave. Now, these are reports which are citing certain family members of the crew who've narrated this kind of a story to their family members. I don't know what is really true in this case, but is this a real possibility?
Yes, I think firstly, it's absolutely a real possibility. And no captain will like to abandon ship. And especially in the present circumstances, please understand, if a women's team in Australia, because they were not singing the national anthem, are likely to be, they are seeking asylum. You can well imagine in case they had surrendered or got down, what would happen to them. So I think and second is, I think what Manan has said absolutely correctly, that in operations in war, surrender is something very, very rarely in your mind. They would have also not thought that actually in the international waters, so close to a country, the Americans are going to torpedo you. These are decisions which are taken at very, very short time discussion, which is happening in the operational environment. So I think that is quite likely. But I'll just like to quickly go back for a couple of points, Madhav. First is, I wish that what Jaishankar Ji has said today in Rajya Sabha, he could have actually tweeted or told on the 4th, rather than allowing this controversy to go out of hand. The second is the decision taken by Sri Lankan government. It took 11 hours. We are not on a telephonic call systems, and I don't think Sri Lanka would be carrying out a discussion with Americans or Indians. It was a Sri Lankans call, along with the request of the Iranians, that they would have taken a call to get them into the harbor or not. The reason why they would have taken a time is, firstly, they would not know that there is a submarine there. That time criticality, they will not be aware. Second is, even in the country, there's a process. After all, these are not everyday affairs that you get a war fighting ship to come on dock in your this thing. So these are unique circumstances. If Americans are saying after Second World War, by the way, they are wrong in it. There are 4 such incidences. That's one, a submarine has torpedoed a ship after Second World War for the first time. This is a very unique case for a country in which a deliberation is required through the political, bureaucratic, and the naval experts. It just can't happen that you call up and somebody will say, okay, get them inside. There are ramifications which are geopolitical. There are ramifications of getting a warship inside. The last point, I'll just try and explain the situation, what has happened. This firstly, all the 3 ships were not together.
Right.
When the Iranians stopped this thing. Now they are on the move. They are not into anchor. The moment you anchor into international water, you are susceptible to be taken out of kill. Now, if you imagine all these 3 ships are possibly located together with IRIS Dena in the timeline, possibly the US submarine would have taken out all 3 of them. They were dispersed, they were distributed, they were in different locations. And whichever was closer, based on the timeline, they got the opportunity to get inside.
Okay.
But I think in case of IRIS Dena, it was something much more specific, because they had taken part of the size in Milan off the coast of Vizag. And they had to actually turn around.
Yes, and it's a frigate. It's a frigate. The others are much smaller ships in terms of their capacity as well. That's what we've been told. But let me bring in fact, Pathikrit on that point that you made. Pathikrit, do you agree with General Pandey when he says perhaps we could have communicated all of this and clarified this much earlier? Because there's a lot of speculation, and it's important to end speculation, at the earliest. Even on Saturday, for instance, there was a global conference that was held on strategic affairs. Even the statement there was not as specific as what Mr. Jaishankar has said today inside the parliament.
Well, that is the call of the government. Yes, there can be a viewpoint that it could have been said earlier. But yes, there are a lot of things probably which have to be kept out of the public domain, knowing well that there will be debates around it, and there are certain things you are not going to disclose. The other important issue is that, I'll tell you one thing. I think the Iranians knew about the risk of the submarine somewhere, because you have a Diego Garcia this side and the Guam on the other side. And yet they took the risk. And I agree with General Pandey when he said that they had a distributed, architecture in terms of sending, let's dock 2 and send 1. Let's understand the government has its own limitations as to what can be revealed and what cannot be revealed. This is one thing we have to understand. There are certain communications, certain part. When an incident like this happens, your first priority is to ensure that your relationship with probably the Iranians and the Americans, that has to be set in place first, because public debates within the country will keep on happening based on speculations. And I think what the stand of the government is, if I have to make a statement, I will make in the Parliament House, within the Parliament. That has been, we have seen as a norm probably in the last few years that they have taken. Whether it should be improved or not, well, that is subject to discussions, because probably that one can say that, ideally they could have said it the day one. However, I feel that there are a lot of subterfuges in it. The presumption that the opposition is putting that, oh, India is aware of it, and not doing anything. I mean, in the whole of Indian Ocean, we have to understand Indian Ocean is not India's ocean. Indian Ocean, it is an international water. At any point of time, many such military platforms are moving around. And you are not supposed to pass on the information from one side to another or this side to that side. You are not supposed to get into that at all. That is the part of the protocol every government, every country maintains. So in that, if something has happened, the blame goes to the Americans. If the Iranians have not docked all the three, it is up to Iranians to decide why they have not done that. You know, India doesn't come into this at all. However, I feel that certain people want to drag India into this whole mess, trying to project that India is somewhere connected to this, which I think we should be very careful, because you know, certain elements want India to be part of what is happening in Middle East, because how the Middle East thing started, maybe it's not going as they anticipated, you know, in Washington. Back to you.
All right. Manan wants to respond to you. Yes, Manan Bhatt.
Yeah, what I see in this IRIS Dena's case are multiple players involved. There is a possibility that the command of Iranian Navy has ordered these 3 ships to dock at the nearest neutral port. So they had requested India and Sri Lanka, both the countries being neutral and near to the area where these 3 ships were operating or leaving towards Iran. So they have requested these 2 countries. In the meantime, US got involved, and they wanted to clear out all the naval vessels that Iran had. So in this scenario, while India responded, maybe Sri Lanka has also responded, okay, you may come, they might be taking a decision that you might come, you might not. And in between, the ship got stuck and it got hit by the US torpedo. Okay. So when it's time for war, when it is time of war, US was absolutely legally correct to target a naval vessel and hit it in this manner. But if we talk about history, if we talk about whether it is morally correct that they did not rescue the ship sailors who were saved after the explosion or after the ship was sunk or hit. So that is a different question to be asked. As far as India is concerned, we have done our duty well. The ship was far away from us. It was near to Sri Lanka, so it was the first, the nearest neutral port was Sri Lanka, and they might have reached there. If they have reached there, they would have been saved. Like the 2 ships that we are able to save, and they, as per law, as per the UN Convention, they will not be able to the shipments of these ships.
Very quickly, let me bring in Rohan Gunarta. What exactly is Sri Lankan government's position on this? They've been quite silent thus far. Are we going to see these sailors and the ships now, at least the one ship that is there, Bushehr, remain docked for an extended period of time at Sri Lanka? What are we looking at in terms of what happens from here on?
Sri Lanka's position is to give refuge to those sailors because there is a war currently between Iran and the United States. And of course, the United States has very clearly asked Sri Lanka not to repatriate those sailors back to Iran. So I believe that they will remain in Sri Lanka, in that base, as long as it is needed to keep them. And that vessel will remain in Trincomalee as long as they can. I think that both India and Sri Lanka looked at this whole issue from a very humanitarian perspective. But we must also understand that currently there is a war between the United States and Iran. And of course, Iran also attacked a number of targets in the Gulf countries.
Absolutely. So, we'll have to, of course, we can't take away from the fact that there is, of course, a full-blown war going on in the Middle East, huge impact, but of course, impact in the Indian Ocean region, which India says is its own sphere of influence or its own backyard. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us this evening. Professor Rohan Gunarta, Manan Bhatt, Pathikrit Pain, and Lieutenant General D.P. Pandey. Thanks so much for joining us.